Oklahoma State has certainly had a successful run of linebackers get to the NFL recently, but as Texas Tech reminded everybody last year, it takes more than just one bad mamma jamma to tango, and they've got more guys coming back. But it does appear as though Oklahoma State has a linebacker room that can compete with Texas Tech too.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are we feeling, our Big 12 brethren? Shout out to the regulators. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day Ohio State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Mazda. Get rocking and rolling today in a Mazda. You have to have that exhilarating experience that you can only get with a Mazda. Make sure you get squared away today with Mazda, where you can move and be moved by Mazda. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to roll right into this linebacker conversation. And thankfully, North Texas brought one of its guys over. Ethan Wesloski is graded, according to PFF, as the number one transfer linebacker in the country. Ethan was number one with a 90.6 grade. Ray Coney at Texas A&M is number two with an 87.6. And Gideon Lamprun out of Colorado is number three at 86.9. And I think whenever you look at the Oklahoma State linebacker room and you compare it to somebody like a Ben Roberts coming back for Tech and some of the recent success we've had in the linebacker position, having multiple dudes is important. Last year, you could argue we had Wendell Gregory, and at times we had Trip White making some emergences. You could make the argument that Trip White probably should have been starting a lot earlier in the season, and perhaps that conversation changes. But nonetheless, we did see some of our better guys either graduate or end up at Kansas State, talking to you, Wendell. But nonetheless, you go out and get Ethan Wesloski from North Texas. That shores up. We've got some returning guys I think that are going to be important to the success of Oklahoma State, especially defensively moving forward. But as it pertains to this linebacker room, yeah, Ethan Wesloski deserves to be. He's an All-American. Comes into Oklahoma State the last 2 years with 233 tackles, 21 and a half tackles for loss. He's got 7 sacks. He's got an interception. He's got a couple passes deflected. He's got a forced fumble. He is basically the consummate professional of that position. He's going to know exactly the ins and outs of what he's supposed to do and physically how he's supposed to cut off angles to help his chances. I think that Ethan Wesloski is a cerebral kind of guy who physically has had to kind of, match intensity levels with other dudes. And we've seen that in somebody like a Malcolm Rodriguez. So having Ethan Wesloski come over is absolutely massive for Oklahoma State, even in just, again, schematically teaching some of the other guys. This is what the defensive coordinator Cassidy was looking for, at my time at North Texas. So here's what I think he's going to be looking for out of you guys in Stillwater. So that's going to be huge for him to teach some of the other guys as well. You have Jack Puckett coming over from right up the road, UCO, another All-American who had a little bit of an injury this previous season, so he didn't get the full gamut of games. But even with that, even with not getting the full 12, 13 game stretch, he still has 165 tackles over the last 2 seasons, 28 tackles for loss, 11 sacks. And again, this previous season, he didn't even get to get the full complement of games. His junior year, he did, and he had 102 tackles. So production is the name of the game for this young man, being that he comes from right up the road. It's going to mean something to him. And I think that is important when you're having conversations about getting some of the transfer portal guys. I think last year we got enamored with too many of the Miami, Florida, UCLA kind of transfers that we didn't exactly pay attention to the film enough to make sure they're going to be good fits. I feel like this is different. And when it comes to popping on film, there's not going to be very many people you watch that plays more aggressively than Jack Puckett. So I think we need that. We need his hunger in Stillwater. So glad we have him. How about somebody that's been talked about a lot already in the offseason? Isaiah Chisom. Isaiah Chisom is definitely an individual that UCLA did not want to see come down this way. After 84 tackles this previous season at UCLA, 2.5 tackles for loss. He threw a sack in there, had a couple forced fumbles. On top of that, he had 173 tackles at Oregon State before he transferred to UCLA. He chipped in another 6.5 tackles for loss. He was able to chip in another sack. That is 257 tackles in basically Power 4 ball, right? Because he spent a few different seasons at Oregon State. and then he spent this previous season at UCLA, and that's a ton of production. UCLA fans were not happy to see Isaiah go because he was going to be the main piece of their front seven this upcoming season. So that's a huge loss for them, massive gain for us. And so far in the offseason, the numbers are matching when it comes to reps, speed, strength, versatility, sideline to sideline. He's exceeding some of the expectations in those departments. So I'm insanely excited. How about another dude that has been rocking and rolling at BYU and also at Arizona State? So he understands the lay of the land, especially in the Big 12 and different iterations of coaches that have gone through. He's seen multiple systems now. Tate Romney coming in at 6'2", 225 pounds, 70 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, does have a sack, has 5 passes deflected, has a couple forced fumble recoveries in there as well. Tate Romney, I think, is another one of these dudes who understands the lay of the land. He understands what you're supposed to do from, getting your academics in order, getting your weight and your nutrition and your conditioning and doing the extra stuff and doing the extra film. I think Tate Romney is going to be a perfect representation of what that looks like inside that locker room. And even in that area, he can help somebody like an Ethan Wesloski. How about Trip White coming over from Ole Miss? He doesn't need, a large introduction into how things are going to operate, especially after this previous season, having success in Stillwater. Coming in at 6'3", 235 pounds, 42 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He's got a sack. He's got a couple forced fumbles mixed in there as well. I think we just barely saw the beginnings of what Trip White could potentially flourish into. Now you're going to have a full offseason, and he's another one of these individuals, much like Isaiah Chisom, that's popping up in these RSA metrics and the plyometrics when it comes to miles per hour and split times and 10 splits and things of that nature. Isaiah Chisom is always in that conversation. Trip White is always in that conversation for who's number one. So is Gunnar Wilson. So let's bring up Gunnar Wilson. Gunnar Wilson is a dude that's already, close to that 21-mile-an-hour range, 6'3", 225 pounds, came to Oklahoma State as an athlete, essentially. He was a tight end that played free safety, strong safety, D-end, basically whatever was needed at Melissa High School during his time. That's what he played. He didn't become a linebacker till the latter half, really, of his senior year of high school. So the understanding the different nuances of the game, that has been pretty new to him. Now he's got another year under his belt at Oklahoma State. I think he's going to see a lot of improvements this year. We're already seeing that. Again, some of these metrics and, almost 21 miles an hour alongside Isaiah Chisom and Trip White. So we might as well stick with another name that keeps getting, mentioned in these metrics and these speed times that are continuously happening. And that is Torian Davis. Torian Davis, 6'2", 230-pound product. He was the number 3 ranked JUCO linebacker in the country before coming to Oklahoma State. He turned down Arkansas to take this opportunity. He was obviously first team all conference. He was the conference MVP with 134 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 4 passes deflected. He's got a couple sacks in there. He's got a pick in there after 141 tackles in high school as well, to go alongside 16 tackles for loss and 9 sacks. So production has never been a problem for Torian Davis. So what likely is the problem? I'm sure a lot of you could guess. Whenever you have somebody this size, this skill level, this speed, with this much production, it typically means that academics were the biggest problem coming out of high school. Not always, but by and large, when you see somebody get to JUCO and dominate JUCO the entire time that they're there, they're typically there because of something other than football. Large portion of the time, it is GPA or SAT or ACT. So it's safe to presume that Torian Davis has had the talent to be a Power 4 guy for years now. He just had to work on some of the academic things or something extracurricular, because the on-football stuff, it's always been there, right? The size is there, speed, strength, numbers. It all tracks for Torian Davis. Now we finally get to see what he can do at this level in the Big 12 at Oklahoma State. Sign me up, as insanely excited. How about another, depth piece that's going to help with the different iterations of how to take care of your body, how to take care of film, how to view this defense differently, is going to be Cooper Malin. 6'2", 230-pounder coming over from Wyoming. He's been there, a few seasons now, so he understands how things go. He understands recruiting. He understands the NIL era, so he could be a good vocal point for the coaches in that room. And then you also have 6'5", 235-pound Dallas Winter Johnson coming over from Tulane. Still a little bit of a raw product, but so is Colin Oliver for most of his time at Oklahoma State. And he's doing his darn thing in the NFL. I mean, heck, this previous season, we were pretty blessed with seeing a lot of production out of Wendell Gregory taking over for Nick Martin. And I think we're going to be able to see that again this season out of this linebacker core. And somebody like a Dallas Winter Johnson, could he play linebacker? Yeah, obviously he has been. But I also think he could be a defensive end. He could be a guy to do a little bit of both. Talking about youth that has enough versatility to do multiple things. Carl Vion Young, 6'4", 220-pounder, coming over from Carl Albert with 232 tackles. Before coming to Oklahoma State, he walked in the building at power 4 D1 size, strength. I think he's going to get the speed and the technique down at some point in time. And if that does happen, when that does happen, CV Young is a bad dude. Another thing to take into consideration before we move on to segment 2 here. This coaching staff could have easily, brought a couple handfuls of the North Texas guys, and they could have just done what a lot of places do and lay a blanket over the team and offer 55 people an opportunity to come back, just because you usually don't have the availability to fill 70 spots, right? So the easy way around it is let's bring back 50 Oklahoma State players or 45 Oklahoma State players, something to that effect. That could have been easy, but they only offered like 40 of these dudes to come back. So if you were part of that crew, that's because the film analysis, not only from Eric Morris, but the film analysis that came from Coach Skylar Cassidy and General Manager Raj Murdy, all of that had to line up for you to get an offer to remain in Stillwater. So out of the 105 some odd players that we had this previous season, only like 40 of them were asked to stick around. Some of these guys are being asked to stick around because of that upside, because of what they can clearly see on the practice film was a lot of times mismatches. Some of our third stringers, some of our scout team were beating our starters on a regular basis. And for whatever reason, politics, NIL, call it what you want to call it, a lot of those guys didn't get to play into the last 5 games of the year. So if you were one of those dudes that was doing that in practice on a consistent basis, but not getting rewarded for it, well, that's the film that Raj Murdy and Eric Morris and Skylar Cassidy got to watch. And Sean Brophy, the film that they got to watch was what was happening in practice. So if you were one of those guys, like a CV Young, like a Gunnar Wilson, that was absolutely owning people but not getting anything out of it, that film is why they're still at Oklahoma State. Those practice clips are still why they're in an Oklahoma State jersey. So that alone has me insanely excited about this upcoming season. It is also a good time for you to get excited about what the possibilities are in hiring, especially if you're hiring with Indeed. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, you do need Indeed, because you don't need a warm body that's just going to walk in and fill a spot. You're going to need somebody that instantaneously adds value to your business. You're going to want to know that when they walk into the building, they're going to have a positive effect on you and your bottom line and your fellow coworkers and the employees. That is precisely what Indeed is going to help do for you. They sort through the nonsense and the crazy stuff, and they find you the most qualified candidates that fit a specific role that you're looking for. So you're going to be able to find the most qualified candidates if you're rocking and rolling with Indeed today. Make sure that you do, in fact, get with Indeed, because it's a crazy world out there, and you always want to make sure that you're rocking with the best. Get rocking and rolling today with Indeed, because you need the best in hiring. You need the best people that you can physically possibly find. And in this time that we've been talking, Indeed has hired 27 people just in this last little bit, according to their nationwide data. So you need to join the Indeed team and get with the best in the business for hiring, which has always been and will always be Indeed. Additionally, you got to get rocking and rolling today with a Mazda. They put so much effort and intentionality to every single car that they design, SUV, everything that you're looking for in a vehicle. Mazda is going to be, learning to get better at and to get closer to being the best that you could ever physically want and you could ever physically drive because of that intentionality, that focus, that passion, that drive. That is the expertise that allows Mazda to be the top of their game 24/7. You need to make sure that you're doing the same thing. Get in something that is going to invoke a feeling of passion, of drive, of fire. Mazda definitely has everything that you need to accomplish all of those goals. So get what you need to get where you can be moved by Mazda, of course, because it's what moves you and it's what moves Mazda. All right, and then we get to roll right into segment 2 here. Yes, the Cowboys had a rough baseball week, and I'm sure some of you watched me lose my ever-loving mind in the loss to Arkansas. Yeah, you probably shouldn't have seen me lose my ever-loving mind in the loss to OU. And thankfully, we got a win in this whole ordeal against Vanderbilt, who some publications have ranked as, top 23, top 20 ball club. At the end of the day, the frustration level remains the same. So my frustration level is still the same because it's the same song and dance. It's not the fact that we lost to Arkansas, run rule style. Yeah, that's embarrassing. Yes, that's a word that should never be tied to Oklahoma State baseball. But there's also, I don't know, this idea that we need to relax a little bit, which I think is crazy because there are standards at Oklahoma State, right? There should be, there used to be. The expectations at one point in time were Omaha every year. Okay, that's not realistic. I get that. So then the expectations basically moved to, let's see, we can compete for a conference title every couple of years and compete for, Omaha every 3 years, something to that effect. And maybe it's changed again. I don't know. But to my knowledge, that is still kind of the standard. Maybe Omaha every single year, maybe it's a pipe dream, right? It's not the 80s anymore. Calm down, Cody. I get it. So what should the new standard be, though? Because the standard absolutely should never be just make regionals, because unfortunately, that's all we've been doing for the better part of the last decade under Josh Holiday. Like, I love Josh. I thought when we had Josh on staff and Matt Holiday and Robin Ventura and Marty Lease and Rob Walton, I thought we were going to win at least a natty with that coaching staff. Like, that is a national championship coaching staff all day, every day, 7 ways from Sunday. And for whatever reason, it just didn't quite come together. It didn't quite work out. The puzzle pieces didn't fit. And yes, we're good at hosting a regional, but it's not good when Dallas Baptist and Oral Roberts and Arkansas fans all across the country are saying, I would love a Stillwater, Oklahoma regional. Like, that's the exact opposite of the effect that you want to have. Whenever you get, your announcement and you see you have to go to Stillwater, Oklahoma, that should put the fear of the Almighty in you like it used to, but it doesn't anymore. Now everybody and their grandma on that selection day, they're hoping and praying that Stillwater, Oklahoma has a regional and they get invited to it, because Oklahoma State cannot win their own regional. It's becoming a little bit of a too on the nose laughing joke. Is the win over Vandy phenomenal? Absolutely. Absolutely. And he still struck out like 9 times against Vandy, but it's not 13 times, 14 times, 16 times. When you're striking out 15 times, you're not going to beat anybody, darn near anybody. And that is my frustration. I couldn't hit for a hill of beans, but I'm not a coach in college that teaches hitting. I don't know who teaches hitting at Oklahoma State, but I do know that there has been, a shift in philosophy at certain times. And whatever the new philosophy is, I don't like it. I don't like it. I mean, we are still feast or famine on the long ball. Even the Vandy win. Like, there's a couple big time moments in there against Vanderbilt that if they don't happen, that's a 3-run ball game, 4-run ball game. So I get it. I love having the beast that can let it fly and leave the yard up and down the lineup. I love it. But it's not consistent enough for us. It's consistent enough for other teams. LSU can do it. Tennessee can do it. Vandy at times can do it. But when we are just a long ball club with power pitching, we struggle in postseason. And that's my fear with what I watched against Arkansas, what we watched in Bedlam, and even some of the pieces of the Vandy game. It's the mindset. It's the thought process. It's the mentality. It's the intentionality to whatever the flip we're swinging at or not swinging at or why we're not swinging at all. It's just our discipline, our plate discipline is horrendous. And it has been for like 7-8 years now. I don't understand why that's controversial to say. I also don't understand why it's controversial to say that if it doesn't get fixed this year, then yes, Oklahoma State should be potentially shopping in the future after this season. But yet we beat Vandy. Great. But we also struck out 30 freaking times in the first 2 games. And that is the same thing we've been seeing for years. Do we have the talent to beat anybody if we're banging them over the wall? Absolutely. Oklahoma State can play with the best team in America if the long ball is going long. But if it's not, we will get beat by almost anybody. That is the problem that I'm seeing. Arkansas fans give Van Horn a hard time because he hasn't won a natty. And then some Oklahoma State people want to correlate Holiday's consistency to the same consistency as that. And it's just, I don't get it. I drew some similarities between Mike Gundy, and I stand by that. Mike Gundy's biggest problem, his only huge flaw, was his stubbornness, his unwillingness to admit and adapt and change things. And that is all I'm saying. That's the exact same thing we're seeing out of Holiday. Nobody's saying that this team isn't really good. Nobody's saying this team doesn't have talent. What we're saying is the discipline, the plate approach is the same. It's the same this year as it was last year and the year before and the year before and the year before. And I used to blame Matt Holliday. I genuinely did. I thought that Matt Holliday's launch angle, because I see this stuff in Colorado on a daily basis, I thought that crept into Josh so much that Josh felt like this launch angle that his brother was bringing in was the future of all of college baseball. And then maybe when Matt Holliday wasn't there anymore, that Josh would go back to the old school Josh, the fight, scrappy, small ball Josh that got us to Omaha. But that hasn't happened. So, I love beating Vandy. That's huge. I don't care that we lost Bedlam. I don't care that we lost Arkansas. I care how we lost. Because how we lost is the same way we've been losing for years. And that's my frustration. Josh can recruit, right? He can coach. He can get people fired up. I don't know. But this one thing never changes. And he refuses to acknowledge why. And people can say, well, maybe we're just not a very good hitting team. No. You look at Arkansas. The reason they are good is because they battle off pitches, right? They're not trying to hit everything, but they're trying to spoil things for the pitcher to get the pitch that they want. We're not doing that. Like, we have to be able to live with the fact that sometimes you can foul 10, 12 back. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but you can do it. And you can find the sequence that is going to work right for you. But we're swinging out in 3-4 pitches a lot. Like, we're not even giving ourselves an opportunity to get to the bullpen. And again, this has been happening for years. That's my frustration. And I don't know. I don't think it's crazy. Would be crazy is for you not to get out of here without getting rocking and rolling today with FanDuel. The bees knees of all of your betting needs. The winter sports are here, and there's not a better way for you to stay dialed into the Olympic action than with FanDuel, right? Whether it's the curling that has the finger touches that you ain't supposed to do to the end that make it even more exciting, or it's a big time hockey match and you're rocking with Team USA, who's waiting on Canada to keep losing fist fights and give us an opportunity to lose another hockey game. Regardless, do not miss a moment of these Olympics when you can stay dialed in the entire time with FanDuel, the bee's knees of all of your betting needs. Make sure that you get with FanDuel today to capitalize on your monetary gains. All right, last but not least, got to give a shout out here for Cowgirls softball. Again, is this going to be the same Cowgirls juggernaut that we're used to? Obviously not. But when you string together some quality wins, it can definitely go a long way. It can definitely uplift. When you take out the number 8 team in the country, Texas A&M, especially with Talon Edwards being the last out, right? That's pretty sweet. And then you go in and you take down number 7, UCLA. That's a massive ordeal. And now we get a big opportunity. Yeah, losing to number 18 Duke. See, again, that's the thing. That's probably what softball is going to be like. We can beat anybody. We can lose to anybody. We can beat number 7 and lose to number 6. We can beat number 6 and lose to number 19. It's not going to be as consistent as always, but seeing them battle back like that was huge. Perhaps the Cowboys battling back to beat Vandy in run roll fashion could also be huge. But the biggest test of all, evidently, seems to be Nebraska coming to town, because Nebraska, they're beating number 7, number 6, number 5. They beat number 1, Texas Tech. And we get a 3-game set with Nebraska at home. And right now, Nebraska is arguably the best, hottest softball team in the country by quite a bit at the moment. So coming into that 3-game set series, I don't think we're projected to win after seeing what Nebraska did this week. We theoretically probably shouldn't win. We should win 1 of 3. So if we can steal 2 of 3 and win this series from Nebraska, I think that does change a lot of the complexion. And it gives you a lot of big time wins to start the year. So yeah, they showed heart. They fought through some adversity. They came back and they had some major highs, and then they fought through some more adversity against Duke to close this thing out. And then now they get to welcome in the hottest team in the country, Nebraska. Massive. And then Jacie Hoyt and the Cowgirls. While men's basketball is making us want to pull our hair out, Cowboy baseball is making us probably lose some hair that we're not even trying to pull out. Thankfully, Cowgirl basketball has been the steady relationship that we needed in this offseason, because softball's up and down already, baseball's up and down already, basketball on the men's side been up and down. But the Cowgirls have just kept on cruising. Even wrestling's had a couple close calls here and there. That Cowgirl basketball just keeps kind of getting us over the hump there. Should we have beat up Utah as bad as we did? Yes. But you never know. You never know in this conference, right? You never know. So it's always exciting, because, I mean, heck, Cowgirls dang sure should have never lost to K-State, but that happened. Okay, so again, in this conference, in this game, at this level, crazy things happen. We don't know. But anyway, they were able to get her did and get themselves one step closer to a top 3 seed in the Big 12 tournament. Alrighty, y'all, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe my podcast with people out there. You are everything that makes this work. I appreciate everything that you do. Yes, I just said do. So go do what you do. Yeah. Hit some stars. Leave some reviews. You know the drill. Alrighty, y'all.